All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Prophet TV. This is the MLS Live podcast, and we are talking Week 15 MLS analysis and betting picks here with my guy, HU. Good to have you back, brother, off of a week off. We talked about it before the show. It's been a little bit busier than normal this year as far as getting the shows in, but we had to make sure to get this one done because this is our last match week before World Cup.
Yeah, man. Hopefully going to go out with a bang. It's been a rough couple of days in the football world for me, with Arsenal winning, and then my Spurs can't get over the line. So glad to get back into the MLS swing of things. So
aren't they very heavily favored to not get relegated though? Just have to not
yeah,
lose.
but we were heavily favored last week too, and it just keeps going down. So I think all we need is a point against Everton, but with Spurs, I feel like nothing's easy. So who knows at this point? I mean, I guess the only positive about going to the championship was we'd probably win most matches, which haven't been used to for the past couple of years. So, but fingers crossed we can make it out.
Yeah, I don't think we want to go down that thought experiment just yet. Let's. I don't have a team in the Premier League. I know you do, so I'm rooting for you, for them, for you. Mm-hmm. Relegation with those resources and. I saw some memes about it, like how teams would be looking at that, that stadium playing in the championship.
I've seen that.
It would be insane. It would be like the Cowboys getting relegated to the CFL or something.
Yeah.
Bananas. But hey, that's why it's special, right? That's why promotion or relegation is, it's like the energy in those stadiums when like everybody's on pins and needles the last 5-10 matches of the season when you're battling relegation, it really does make it mean something. But I think it's going to be a while before we have a chance to enjoy any kind of promotion relegation here.
Probably so,
unless you're a USL fan. I think they're doing it next season. I think they're launching promotion and relegation. So.
And I saw some news today. I briefly looked over it. They were thinking about testing like a stopped clock. I think when the ball went out of play, and I saw a bunch of the comments were very much against that for good reason. So,
yeah, I'm not a huge. I don't want to stop the clock. That feels like you're changing the DNA of the game. I am totally okay with actually keeping stoppage time accurately. I think that should be done. I think that. It's just way too much up in the air for you. It depends on who the ref is. And like, you can have guys lay on the ground injured for 5 minutes and then they had 2 minutes at the end of the half. I mean, that's, we've all been there, right? Especially when you need a goal. And you're like, what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, come on. Yeah,
exactly. All right. Well, again, we're going to jump into match week 15 here, try to get you guys some more winners. It's been a great season so far here on the show. We keep cranking them out. It's been awesome, been really fun. JuiceReel is a sponsor of our show. Really awesome app. Basically, you link your accounts. Every bet you make gets tracked immediately in your JuiceReel account. It does all the hard work for you, so you can see how you're doing. This is kind of a view of what it looks like. It even narrows it down to sports overall. So you can say, hey, I crushed college basketball this year, whatever your thing is. There you go. Tracks it all for you. If you're interested, check out the link in the description. It's an app, so get it downloaded. And here we go. Jumping right into it. First game on the docket for week 15. We're looking at San Diego hosting Vancouver Whitecaps. HU, this is you, brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So for those who don't know me, or those who do know me, you know how much I loathe betting the good teams in the league. But we're going here to the league leaders, going to Vancouver, team total over 1.5 here. I like the spot, coming off a loss in the last match against the Dynamo. They looked pretty poor, but, they've kind of been dealing with some injuries and some absences as of late. But this is a good spot, against a San Diego team, which if you've listened to the podcast, you know how much I've harped on how bad their defense is and, going right back at them again for this week. When you look at Vancouver away on the road, they've had some shaky performances, but specifically at San Jose, I was really impressed because they created over 1.5 expected goals. And, San Jose is a team that has really, revolutionized their defense this year compared to past seasons. Also at the Galaxy, created 2.6 expected goals and 4 total big chances. And then even away at Seattle, they look pretty competent. So this is an attack that's really, really impressive, with Mueller and Brian White in particular up top. They lead the league in expected goals with 32.1, and it's not like a fluke because they've only scored 30 actual goals. So if anything, they're underperforming slightly. So just really competent and a really smooth attack. Going back to San Diego, this is a defense that I've faded multiple times this year. They just consistently bleed chances. They're 25th in MLS with 25.9 expected goals allowed. And what really caught my attention with their defense is like half the teams they've played are not anything special. 4 of their matches have come against Austin, Minnesota, Houston, and Portland. And, they do have some tough opponents in there, but they rank this poor. And like I said, half their matches have been against either average to below average attacks. And so going up against a Vancouver side off a loss, I think this is a great spot for them to grab 2 here. They will be without starting goalkeeper Takaoka due to a red card. And so I expect San Diego to have their chances here and to arguably get 1 or 2. And so I do think Vancouver will need to get 2 here. And I think this is a good line to score 2 goals. Wouldn't surprise me if this closed, around minus 170, minus 180. So taking the team total here over 1.5, I think this is one of the few times we're going to get this team total playable this year. And so I'm going to take it against a poor defense that this league chances on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, I like this. I like that we've got Vancouver West Coast to West Coast here. So we're not dealing with the huge West Coast home field advantage that when you go across the country from, or either central or east all the way to the West Coast. We've talked about that historic home field advantage for these West Coast teams. This is not too bad of a trip, time zone wise for Vancouver. I also like that Vancouver's starting to get healthier. They got Mueller back and Bruno Quinones. I'm a really big fan of this guy. Yeah. I had him circled when they announced the transfer going into this season. He came over from Ecuador, where he did pretty well. And he has played really well for Vancouver, but he's been hurt. He was on the bench and didn't play against Houston. So that's one guy that I think you could see come in and be a good reinforcement here for Vancouver. They've had some other guys banged up that are working their way back in. So that's good to see for them.
Yeah. And I mean, not even for this match, but like you mentioned, I saw a tweet where Gauld was back in training and he's getting back to fitness. So I think after the World Cup, we'll see him. I think the trio of him, Mueller, and Brian White will even, take this attack to another level.
Yeah, man, it's going to be really interesting to see. We've hardly gotten to see Ryan Gauld with Mueller out there. Yeah. He's been so banged up, so it's going to be interesting to see how they look. But yeah, I think this San Diego team, they are what they are. I think that we were right early in the season when we said they've taken a step back, not quite as deep as they were last year, and I think defensively. They've got some big, deficiencies, and I think they're going to be an overs team. I think if San Diego scored 2, if this game was 2-2, I wouldn't be shocked. Yep. So I like the team total approach here. Good way to start the show. All righty, on to our next match here. LAFC hosting the Sounders. This is mine. I'm going to be honest. I thought the lines this week were really sharp. I had a really hard time finding plays that I just loved, that really jumped out. So I had to really dig. I had to kind of this feels like a little bit of a hold your nose play for me, because I am going to jump on LAFC at home here. Obviously struggling. People are calling for Mark Dos Santos's head here. The LAFC fans, I follow a lot of their big blog accounts on X, and they are not happy, right? I get it. I mean, we've talked in the Discord, we've talked on here. was very disappointing and embarrassing going back to that Toluca game in Champions Cup, because I think LAFC potentially, when you look at their starting 11, is as good as anybody on the continent. And they went into that tie, into the second leg of that tie, with a 2-1 aggregate advantage and completely played not to lose. There was no aggression. I mean, David Martinez has arguably been their best player this season. He's been their most electric player for sure. And they started him on the bench against Toluca. So there's a lot of fans that are upset. They've lost 4 straight. They've conceded 13 goals in their last 4, 15 goals in their last 5. So, they started the season like they didn't concede a goal in however many games. It looked like they had the best, defense in the league, and they're just bleeding right now. So they desperately need to stop it. And I think they're a lot better than Seattle. I think, and they're at home. I'm not saying Seattle is a pushover. They're good defensively. They're well coached, but this LAFC team desperately needs a 3 points here. They're at home. They actually match up pretty well with Seattle. Seattle's a little bit banged up in the midfield and defensively, which is a really big deal for the Seattle team, because that's what they do, especially on the road. I mean, they're a defensive team. So I think -110 is probably generous. I think this is -150 if this is 3 weeks ago against the same Seattle team. And then again, I mean, Seattle's banged up themselves. So I think that they're going to be hungry for a good, for a good result here, for a win. I don't think we'll see any more of David Martinez starting on the bench for the rest of the season. I think it's very clear that him and Son and Buanga need to be out there together. I never pronounce his name right, but the Canadian midfielder, Estacao, whatever, however they pronounce it, he's back. He's healthy. This is LAFC for me. So LAFC on the money line. What do you think about this one?
No, man, I love this play. I love buying low on some good teams. And I think I was speaking about this to somebody else in a different Discord. And I think part of it is why we've seen this slight drop off. Do I think the coaching is good? No, but I think they got into a really congested schedule. And I was looking at it, and they've played 5 matches from the Nashville game. They played 5 matches in 15 days. And so this is their first full week without a match. I'm looking at it going back to, I believe, April. And so this is their first full week without, 2 matches in a week. And so they finally have some sense of rest, and, where they're not as fatigued. They've played their last 4 matches. They've played five road matches. So I think we're going to see the LAFC of old come back, as, these breaks become more and more common and there's less schedule congestion. I know the first match against Miami, we thought they were going to walk the West, and I think they arguably still could win the West, but I think that the travel and the fatigue on players like Son and Buanga were really tough. And so I think now that they've got a full week's rest and coming back home, I think this is a great buy low spot, because like you said, I mean, they're a good team, but I don't think anybody would have them on the caliber of LAFC, especially on the road. So no, definitely a good buy low spot for me.
Cool. Yeah. And that's a good point about the schedule. And then the other thing is, like, the standard's just so high. Like, the standard's so high. So it feels, you lose 4 straight, it feels like the sky is falling, because for a club with those standards, it is. So last match before World Cup, got to get it done here. So
I mean, yeah, and even, I know this doesn't mean much to LAFC fans, but and I thought they looked great against Nashville. Like, they were creating chances, and they probably should have won. And so I think that's what we're going to see more of, as like I said, they get more rest, and there's less matches in such a short amount of time. And so back home in front of their home fans, I think they'll get it together here.
And again, like last time, I'm going to harp on it, but that's why it was so disappointing at Toluca, because if LAFC had just played the style that they normally play on the road, the style that we saw against Nashville, probably a much different situation. They're probably a very good chance that they're playing for, you know, a continental title. So
Yep.
MLS teams have got to stop going down to Mexico and playing scared, man. It's embarrassing. All right. We got 2 combo plays coming up. This one's yours, and then mine will round out the show. I am using the Chicago game as well because I think that's a good spot, but I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a combo, some more team totals here. I'm going to take Chicago at home, team total over 1.5, parlayed with Cincinnati team total over 1.5 against Orlando. You know, we've talked in the Discord about this Toronto team and how we think they are an unders team, and I do think they have been pretty unlucky. You know, when you look at their underlying metrics, they've conceded 27 from 17 expected goals, and so I do think there is some positive regression coming for them defensively, but I think it's too early. I think when you look at their injury list and their injury reports, they're missing like you could start a roster with the amount of injuries they have, and so they had to call up an MLS Next Pro player, Jackson Gilman, to start in defense due to their injuries. And then also they're playing a backup goalkeeper, Luka Gavrin, who has been really, really poor. He's in the 2nd total percentile. So he's essentially the worst in the bottom 2 to 3 goalkeepers in MLS with goals prevented with minus 4.51. And he's in the 14th percentile in save percentage with 53.4%. So I think this is a really tough challenge going against Ugo Kuipers, who's been in tremendous form. He's only the 3rd player to score in 10 consecutive matches. And just a Chicago offense, you know, that has kind of found some form. They've scored at least 1 goal in every home match. And so I do expect them to come out early and fire. And you know, similar to Vancouver, this is a team their attack's not a fluke. You know, when you look at their metrics, they've created a total of 25.6 expected goals, and they've scored 25. And so their numbers aren't fraudulent. You know, they're a very solid attack. And, you know, Kuipers has proven he can score on anybody. And, you know, while I do think Toronto is a solid defensive team when healthy, this is just a back line that's depleted, and it's really tough ask for them to go away to Chicago here and, you know, stop them from scoring 2 to 3 goals here. You know, we saw them away at Charlotte last week, allowed over 2 expected goals against the Charlotte team has been really struggling. And I think, you know, the Chicago attack is better than Charlotte. And so just a good spot here for them to score 2. I almost bet the under. And if Toronto was healthy, I would bet the under, but a 2-0, 3-0 wouldn't surprise me here. And then going over the other match, you know, two sides that I've been fading, at least defensively, taking the Cincy team total over 1.5 here. I was really impressed with them away at San Diego. And like I just mentioned, I think San Diego is very poor defensively, but I've been wanting to see some, you know, improvement from Cincinnati. And, you know, they didn't really offer that defensively, but their attack looked great. You know, they did manage to tie it up late, but they created plenty of chances. They're 5th in XG in the league, and they've scored at least 2 goals in each of their last 7 matches. And so, although the defense is pretty horrendous, the attack continues to fire on all cylinders. You know, the duo of Denke and Evander is easily one of the best in the league, and, you know, they can change the game at any moment. When you look at Orlando, they are dead last in MLS with 30.5 expected goals allowed, and they've allowed 38. And so you could argue positive regression is coming, but, you know, like we mentioned last week, sometimes you just suck. And, you know, a lot of these bottom teams typically will underperform their expected goals allowed is because they are not good. And so I think part of it is due to their defense. You know, Robin Janssen was kind of like their wall at the back for a bit, but he's getting up there in age. I believe he's 34. And then their fullbacks, I'm still not sold on. I think there's a lot of defensive flaws and limitations there at fullback. And so I think this is a defense that Cincinnati can definitely get at here. Orlando's also off the back of a midweek Open Cup fixture and has to travel to Cincinnati. So some short rest here for the visitors. But, yeah, I like these 2 home sides to take care of business here. They wouldn't surprise me if both of them concede at least 1 to these sides. But I like both home sides here to score 2 or 3 and get this parlay over the line.
Yeah, I like both home sides as well. Particularly, I'm really high on Chicago this week. I mean, you said it. I mean, clearly Toronto has improved from last season, but they're missing so many guys. Like, they are just devastated right now, this roster. So yeah, I think that Chicago game, I wouldn't be shocked if it got out of hand.
Yeah.
Because Chicago, like it's time to recognize this attack as the real deal. Like they're smooth. You know, they are, you know, very cohesive. They operate very well on a consistent basis, game to game. This is not, like you said, they're not a fluke. That attack is the real deal. Orlando, like I'm down to fade that defense anytime. Cincinnati, I've got mixed feelings for Cincinnati, to be honest with you. I think we probably both do. But yeah, I mean, when you got Evander on your team, when he's in shape and dinky, those guys can put it in. So,
well, even with Cincinnati, like I thought once, and like I said, I know they're like Miazga and Robinson are still kind of working their way back in. I thought it would be like an immediate fix, and it hasn't. Like there's still like there's flaws in the system, and like, there's still plenty of holes, and so I don't trust them to like win any match. Essentially, like I know they can score, as they can just keep scoring, but they're always open to concede on any counterattack or set piece or anything. So it's tough for me to really back them in terms of the spread, but in terms of scoring goals, I can bet them all day long.
So I was looking at some player analytics here while you were talking, and one that really jumped out to me that's mind blowing, honestly. Walker Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Obviously, defender of the year. You know, at Nashville, U.S. men's national team, World Cup center back, 4 years ago. That's how good this guy was.
Yeah.
Of his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games this season, if you look at like Flash Score, Sofa Score, player ratings, he has graded 3 games in the red, which is like anywhere 5 in the 5 point whatever or lower.
Yeah.
The last time he's did that going before this season was 1 game in 2019.
Yeah.
So he might have fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, and I know that they signed the Chilean defender. I forget his name, but he's hurt as well. And so, like, I think that they were trying to, revamp the defense, but you're signing a, Walker Zimmerman coming off a severe concussion, who's he's in his mid-30s, and then just unlucky with like the rest of the defense. But I think they were trying to make like a veteran signing, and it just hasn't really worked out.
Yeah, like I've been a big supporter of Zimmerman. Like when last World Cup, you had a lot of people saying, why are we starting an MLS guy at center back? I thought he was great in the World Cup. I thought he was a serviceable World Cup caliber center back last World Cup, but he's so far off from where he was.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Here we go. Another combo play, keeping one game the same. They're at the top. Chicago and Toronto will stay right there. Then I'm adding a play from Kansas City and Red Bull. Almost made this a 2-unit play, and then decided like sporty Kansas City and Red Bull, I don't know if I can trust them. So really like this one. If I had to pick a favorite play, it would be this one. I'm rolling with Chicago money line and combining that with Sporting Kansas City and New York Red Bull, both teams to score, and that gets us to even money. We just talked about the Chicago game, so I mean that doesn't we don't need to go over everything again on that one. Sporting Kansas City, thank you guys. Got your first road win of the season and got Austin's coach fired. So thank you so much. I mean, it needed to happen. That was awesome. So thank you. I'm an Austin fan, so we need to change. Got the front office guy fired as well. So let's get some wholesale changes in here. Austin has not had an actual 10 for 2 full seasons on the roster, like not even like a backup caliber 10. So I don't know what sport they thought we were playing, but I don't know. Unbelievable. So thank you, Kansas City. Kansas City. I'm not overly high on this team, but I think anybody in this league, when they're at home, is going to score a New York Red Bull. I do like Capita. I talked about him last week. Jovic is their best player. We talked about that too. Red Bulls actually almost even money on the road here. That's how bad Sporting Kansas City is. And I think they're right up there with Orlando expected goals allowed. Like I think they might be 1 and 2. So
yeah,
really like this play. I honestly think it's got a really good chance to cash, higher than the odds are given here. What do you think, HU?
Yeah, no, I definitely looked at the Red Bulls game as well. We talked about their like young core that's kind of taken over, but I expected a little more from a Michael Bradley system. I thought, we saw I believe it was the first game, they looked pretty good. I think it was at Orlando. They looked solid defensively, and
Yep.
looking back, Orlando's just not good. So, but they've definitely shown serious flaws at the back, and I think they can, kind of score 2 or 3 here. But I think SKC at home, we've seen that they can at least be a competent side enough to score at least 1 here. So yeah, I like this one as well.
Sweet. Fantastic. Any other games that jumped out to you? It was a hard slate, but did you see anything else kind of stood out?
No, it's funny because I almost texted you and I was like, I don't know if I want to come on this week because there's nothing that I really love. So I really wanted to be, and I might still be on St. Louis at home against Austin at a fairly cheap-ish money line price. I was hoping that they would wait a week and fire him after this game because I'm not really like a trends or conspiracy guy, but I do think the new manager bounce is a decently quantifiable angle, and so maybe Austin will with him gone might be like a breath of fresh air. But I do lean St. Louis. We've seen them. They are off the midweek fixture against Houston, but that was at home, and we've seen them create plenty of decent chances recently. Lovin's getting back in the lineup. He was on the bench last night, so I do expect him to start in this one. So St. Louis would be a look for me. Not really too much else. I think the Portland-San Jose game could be a little interesting with San Jose coming off the midweek fixture and back-to-back away games. They're kind of been beaten up a little bit, and so if they rotate or if their guys aren't back yet, I do believe we could see some goals there, but not really too much else. Like you said, it's a pretty tough week. We love unders, but unders in this MLS this year have been pretty difficult to come by in terms of on a consistent basis, and so there's been some under spots that I'm kind of hesitant on. Like I looked at Minnesota and RSL, and then Charlotte, New England, that I would lean under there. So gonna do a little more digging, but I'd say St. Louis and then Portland, San Jose are my 2 other favorite looks.
Okay, yeah. I looked at the Galaxy and Houston Dynamo game. And really couldn't settle on anything that I liked enough. I flirted with the under a little bit. I flirted with Houston a little bit. I just still don't trust Galaxy really, but I also don't really trust Houston. So that's kind of what the whole slate felt like to me.
I feel like I can't really get a read on Houston because you were on the under against LAFC, and that was like 5 on like one expected goal. It's like, okay. Yeah. And then last night I was like, okay, tough trip to St. Louis, and they were arguably the better side. So I can't get a read on them. I think their attack on paper isn't bad, and then like they just don't really produce all that much most games, and so they're a very, very weird team to call.
What do we think about Is Dallas legit? I mean, like is their attack legit? Because I feel like anytime like they go off and then I go and back them, and they create like 0.68 expected goals at home. Yeah. What is it like? That's another team I can't figure out. All the teams in Texas.
Yeah, they're weird, man. I think when you have Peter Musa up top there, you have a threat of a goal at any time, but I'm really not sold on the other pieces yet. I still think they're missing an important 10 that would really make me want to believe in them. I'm not like they have looked good recently, but I'm not super sold. I think Colorado, once again, coming off a midweek match, that could be a decent angle, but I'm still not willing to fully commit to them as of yet. I thought the win last week against San Jose was really impressive. Not many people have gone to San Jose this year and taken 3 points, and so still kind of iffy, but I do think they're trending upwards.
I will say this: if San Jose gets Timo back, and maybe a little bit more, I might be willing to back like a road team total at Portland. I'm really big on fading Portland, especially with the road teams. Really bummed out that San Jose is dealing with some injuries because man, that was a team that you could bank on. Like that was one of the teams that we really liked and was making us money.
Yeah. I think I looked earlier and San Jose was a road underdog, or it was like a dead even pick. I don't know if it still is or not, but it's a pick. I would definitely lean San Jose. I think Portland is very flawed. I mean, I came on here a couple weeks ago or last week and talked about it, and so I think that San Jose, I think they have looked a little worse, but their injuries and some rotation and whatnot, but I think they're miles better than Portland. So
oh yeah, Bruce over Phil Neville.
Yeah, any day
for sure. Cool. I know you posted some stuff on World Cup. This is the last episode. This is gonna be the last episode for a while because of World Cup. I don't know if we'll do anything fun for World Cup. Maybe we can get you and Garrett on here and maybe another guest and do something fun. We'll have to talk about it, but I know you posted some stuff. Any nuggets you want to drop before we go?
Yeah, so if you haven't seen, I love Ivory Coast. I think they'll be a really, really solid underdog. That they added Bonnie from Inter. He recently pledges allegiance to Ivory Coast. So their attack should be Bonnie, Diamande from Leipzig, and Diallo from Man United. Extremely underrated attack. A lot of youngsters that are up and coming. And I think their group is, pretty, I don't want to say winnable, but Germany I'm pretty low on. I think this is one of the weaker Germany teams, since I've gotten into the sport. I think they're pretty flawed. Ecuador is really underrated. They're also a team that I looked at, but in their match against Ivory Coast, they're going to be missing Caicedo. So I think that's a really big suspension. He's going to be the best midfielder on the pitch. And so without him, I think Ivory Coast can definitely, steal the 3 points there. And then it's just going to be the match against Germany. And so I played them to win the group and also reach the round of 16. And so I really like them. Just some youngsters that are up and coming have kind of had their breakout seasons in their domestic leagues. And so I really like them. I don't know the odds yet, but I will probably be on Brazil to have an early exit. I just think that squad is bad. I mean, I know they didn't call up João Pedro, which stunned me. I think he's arguably their best, one of their best forwards. And so not having him is really surprising, and they do have some good, like elite defenders. I think Gabriel's arguably the best defender in the world, but their defense, when you look at it, is just not good. And they're kind of fallen off from what I'm used to. They do have Carlo Ancelotti, and I faded him pretty much every year at Real Madrid, and he constantly just shoved me in the dirt. And so maybe they have some Ancelotti Madrid voodoo that is carrying over, but I'm pretty low on Brazil. I know Garrett's talked about it before, and like some of these European teams coming over and playing in the heat, which I know we saw in the Club World Cup was really tough. I know a European team ended up winning it, but it took them a while to grow accustomed to the conditions. And so I do think the South American teams will have an advantage early, especially like the upper tier South American teams besides Brazil, like Argentina, went as like Uruguay, make a decent run. But I think it's going to take a while for these European teams to really, at least a game or two, to really, adapt to the conditions. And so, we'll see, man. Like I said, I'm pretty high on Ivory Coast, pretty low on Brazil. I think Netherlands are pretty underrated as well. I like the Netherlands to make a decent run. If I had to pick a winner, I still think it'll be England. I think that I really like the appointment of Tuchel. I think, like I said, I think the conditions aren't great, but this is the most talented squad and the best coach they've had. I think he's a lot better than Southgate, and tactically, he's won on the big stages before. And so my pick would be England. They've gotten to back-to-back finals. They were in the Euro final and the World Cup semifinal as well. And so I think they can make a deep run, and maybe local go their way this time. Like I said, I think they upgraded the manager, and we've seen Arsenal, a lot of players from Arsenal, other teams in the Premier League really have taken their game up another level this year. And so I like England as my winner.
Nice. One bet I just looked at that I do really like, Mexico to win their group. I know a lot of people are not that high on the Mexican team right now. They're playing all their games at home, and they're playing at altitude. I think they're playing 2 games in Guadalajara, which is almost 7,000 feet. I think maybe 1 game in Guadalajara, 1 game in Mexico City, 1 game in San Diego or LA. Their group is Czech Republic, South Korea, who I'm not high on. I'm not high on South Korea at all. I think they're out, and South Africa. With the home field advantage, the heat, the elevation, they practice and play in it for their whole life. So, I mean, that's huge. Even money to win their group. I think that's a fantastic bet. They're basically a home team. I could even see World Cup gets magical. World Cup is very much about the vibes in a lot of ways. I mean, we saw, like what Morocco did. We've seen teams make crazy runs that are, near home or just they get hot, right? And so that's what's fun. That's what's so fun about it. If you had to pick a dark horse to make the final, let's not say win, because the dark horses don't win the final, but they can make it. Who do you like?
I mean, if you consider the Netherlands a dark horse, I mean, they're not like in the upper echelon of teams.
I would make the final.
Yeah, I would go them. I think their group's really easy. I think Sweden is, they're starting Gyökeres up front. That's all I got to say about them. Tunisia and Japan. I think their group is pretty easy. I wish, as a Spurs fan, I wish Xavi Simons wouldn't have gotten hurt. I think he's a really underrated and extreme talent. But even then, man, like they have talent all across the field. Even like someone like Daniel Malen, who is kind of like considered one of their weaker attackers, having a breakout season for Roma. So I really like the Netherlands to make a deep run. I don't know if you consider them a dark horse, but if I had to go for like a severe extreme dark horse, I mean, Morocco is good. I think you could argue Ivory Coast. Senegal was really close. Someone that I looked at, I think Senegal was really. I was looking at their attack in AFCON. I'm like, their team is loaded. Like their attack has got plenty of talent across the board. I know they have Ndiaye from Everton, Nico Jackson. I mean, if you consider Sadio Mane still relevant, they've got Kamara, I believe, from Monaco. So they've got a lot of talent across the board. Do I think they can make a run? Not that far, but I think this is like my favorite year for like dark horses essentially, and teams that can pull off some upsets. Like I think in the end we'll probably have a majority of the big names and like the semifinals and whatnot. But it wouldn't surprise me if we see like a Morocco from a couple like the last World Cup that really makes a deep run. Like I said, my favorite's Ivory Coast, but there's definitely a couple other ones that I believe could make some noise.
I like a sprinkle on Ivory Coast and Senegal. Like you said, Ivory Coast 80-1 to make the final. Senegal 40-1 to make the final. My favorite underrated team, and I don't know if they're going to make the final, but again, a team that can make a run. I love Japan, dude.
Japan, yeah.
I love how they play, man. Like, I love how they play. Super underrated athletes.
Yeah.
I think for whatever reason, people don't really think Asians are that good of athletes.
Yeah.
Well, their sprint relay team I think they've won silver like 2 of the last 3 Olympics.
They're good.
So these Japanese guys are legit athletes, man. And their roster's good. They play really well together. Their roster is deep. They've got big time European top 5 starting talent all over the team. That's a team that if they got hot, like they can make a run.
Yeah. My one thing, because I also like I was pretty high on them in one of the last tournaments, and like they have talent across the field. I believe Matoma was excluded, which I really wish that he was in it. I think he's arguably their best player, and so I know he's been injured for a little bit, but I would have liked to have seen him to make the squad, because I think he's, like you said, that he plays in arguably the best league in the world. He's continuously put up great stats for Brighton, and so I would have liked to have seen him included in the team. But no, like you said, they have talent littered across, Europe's big leagues. And so I think they, especially, and like I said, the group is poor, Tunisia, Sweden, and the Netherlands. So it wouldn't surprise me if they get second in that group. And then if just at that point, it's luck of the draw, maybe they get, a weak 1 seed, but
100%. All righty, folks. We appreciate you for joining us. As always, going to be an extended break. We'll see you guys after World Cup. Let's go 4 for 4 before World Cup and just make some dang money. And then maybe we'll see you guys before or during World Cup for a special edition. We'll talk about it. Make sure you're following us on MLS Live Podcast on X. Follow HU right there at HU_Capper. Follow me, Prof, on Sports Profit __. And we will catch you next time.